McDonald's has entered a Minecraft movie universe, and Grimace, Birdie, and Hamburglar just spawned as new collectibles in the overworld. Now for a limited time, you can get one of 6 McDonald's collectibles when you order a Minecraft movie meal. Ooh. With your choice of Big Mac or 10-piece chicken McNuggets with spicy nether flame sauce. Available now in a biome near you. Oh, and at your local McDonald's. At participating McDonald's for a limited time. A Minecraft movie only in theaters.
What's good, family? Your boy David here with BWR, and I want to let y'all know it is going down in H-Town on March 28th. Yes, I said it. March 28th, we're going to be in Houston, Texas, hosting one of our Renaissance mixers at Muse office space. We're going to be talking stocks, real estate, business development, and much, much more. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It's going to be a great time. Going to be good vibes. Link for the tickets is down in the show notes. I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Peace. What's up, y'all? It's your boy David with Black Wealth Renaissance, and I'm here today to tell you guys about Anchor. If you haven't heard of Anchor, it's the best place to make a podcast. Anchor is a free app that has creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast straight from your phone. Anchor also distributes your podcast across all major platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many others. You can also make money on your podcast with Anchor with no minimum listenership. Anchor is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So if you're looking to get started on your own podcast, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm.
You know the rules of the game. Yeah. You know the rules of the game. I don't care what color. Can you make me 100 million? Let's talk money. Can you make me that? If you can't make me that, I won't talk to you. You shouldn't even be at this table.
Hey, I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone. Gotta get it on the daily. All I want is dubs. You know what I'm on. I've been chasing after paper. All I know is run money marathon.
Do 5 years of this and be a millionaire and go on do what I want to do, have kids, go live my chip and joy in the games life out here in Texas, or struggle for the next few years. The choice is yours.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Black Wealth Renaissance Podcast. Our goal of this podcast is to normalize black wealth and share helpful resources and tips we believe will be useful in attaining and maintaining generational wealth. Please feel free to rate and comment on our podcast. We would love to hear all feedback you have. Now, enjoy the show.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Black Wealth Renaissance Podcast. David Bellard, 1/4 of the Black Wealth Renaissance, checking in with my co-host. Fellas, how you feeling?
What's good? It's your boy Jalen, man. Another quarter of BWR. Man, I'm just living good, man. Feeling good to be back. It's another beautiful Saturday, man. We're here with a great guest, man. So I'm doing great, man. How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm making it, bro. Living good. A couple of our brothers, Jared and Kelly, couldn't make it right now. Jared might hop on a little later. But, yeah, man, I'm living good. It's a great Saturday evening. And we got, like Jalen said, another great guest, a brother from Harlem, home of the hustlers.
Home of the hustlers, baby.
Home of the hustlers.
Yes.
Been out here, moved from the banking game to the entrepreneurial game, and he just been killing it with the books lately. You motivational speaking, financial motivation. And I'm speaking to none other than the good brother Ash Cash. Brother, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you for having me. Like, I've been seeing what y'all doing out here on these internet streets, and it's exciting, because it's so crazy. And so that's like, it makes my heart like happy, right? Because once upon a time, like, it wasn't a lot of people talking about black wealth. You know what I'm saying? And so to now see the space where not only are we having the conversations, not just one-off conversations, but like we're constantly having a conversation about black wealth, it makes me feel good, man. So I'm excited that you guys are, allowing me to be part of the platform. And yeah, let's chop it up. Let's talk about that cloth talk, man. Let's get into it for sure.
Yeah, bro, man. And we just want to say, man, we thank you too, because you kind of one of the catalysts for driving the force, man, especially with the Black Wealth Renaissance. I know when we were starting to really start building this, you was one of a large following that we saw. and we saw the books that you were putting out and the things that you were talking about. It was like, man, he really out here doing it, bro. And then whenever we kind of heard your background, it was like, oh yeah, he really about that life. Like he get it out the mud.
Appreciate you, man, for sure.
Yeah, so Ash, man, to pop the show off, we always ask our guests if they could just introduce themselves to the audience and give them like your background story, like how you got to be an Ash Cash.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always say, man, I'm a kid from Harlem, New York, typical urban story. So I grew up in the St. Nicholas projects, man. So I'm from 129th Street and 8th Avenue. Always been a hustler all my life. So 8 years old, packing bags. I guess typical urban story. So my mom, my mom was a single mom. She raised 3 of us. I was the youngest of 3. Because my mom really didn't have money. I had to hustle at an early age. And so at 8 years old, going to the local supermarket, packing bags and helping people, with their groceries in order to make ends meet. It started there. Then, graduated. By the time I was 11, 12 years old, I was, selling mixtapes and T-shirts and, on the famous 125th Street as a vendor. And then honestly, fast forward to, an adult, not even an adult, like late teens, where I'm, looking at like, I need to make some money, right? Like I had, friends in the street that was hustling, that was making some good money. They were getting all the girls. So I almost kind of went, in that direction to sell dope, I'll be honest, right? But then, luck had it, you know what I'm saying? My sister, we're really, really tight. She got me a job at a video store, fast out the Blockbuster Videos. And that was it, man. At 17 years old, I worked at the video store. And then 2 years later, I got promoted to assistant manager. 2 years later, I was 19 years old. And a young lady who worked with us at the video shop was like, yo, they hiring for tellers at Chase Bank. And I was like, yo, I knew there wasn't but so much I could do, as a video store clerk. And so I was like, yo, I'm going to go for it. At 19, I became a teller. And the rest is really history. I did everything in banking. So from teller to personal banker to private banker, which means that I managed the book of business of wealthy people who started at $250,000 in investable assets. My largest client was worth $22 million. I was a branch manager, so I've opened over 6 branches, de novo branches. I was like the cleaner. Like they would open up a new branch, I would go, I would market the hell out of it, make it pop, and then they'll take me out and they'll put me somewhere else. And then I became a CEO of a credit union when I was 31 years old. And so I did so much within that banking space. And one of the things that led me to becoming an entrepreneur was, as a banker, I was seeing the numbers. I was seeing like how much my efforts, right, from opening brand new branches. Like I remember in 2008, I opened a branch for Chase. It was an $8 million project from scratch. It was like I watched it as it was a gas station and built it up to the actual branches. And I was like in the street with my team, and we were like, marketing and making money before the doors even opened. And then when I would look at the P&L, I would look at the profit and loss statement, I was like, yo, like I'm making this much money for y'all. And I was, granted I was making 6 figures, but I'm like, nah, like I'm making a lot of money for y'all. And then at the time, I didn't really like the way banking was going, because you got to think it's 2008, 2009 when the Great Recession was happening. And a lot of times people only talk about the consumer side, like how people were losing stuff, but nobody talks about the inside. And maybe that's another book, right? The inside of it was they were putting pressure on us like nothing was happening. Like they were telling us, go ahead, go sell. So they put mad pressure on us and they was increasing our numbers. So long story short, man, I said, you know what? I don't like how this feels. I do like when I used to volunteer and go teach financial literacy. So I would go to inner city schools. I would go to jails. So I would go like the infamous Rikers Island. I remember we would go to C-74 and talk to the adolescents about finance, about changing their mindset, about, entrepreneurship. And I would go to churches. I would just, do all that stuff. And I like doing it. And so in my mind, I'm like, yo, how can I do what I love doing, but make money? Because I'm like, yo, I can't sustain my life by volunteering. And, like somebody told me, was like, yo, you should write a book. And I was like, write a book? I'm like, yo, I ain't no author, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to write. But I wrote my first book. Matter of fact, it's right here. I wrote my first book in 2009. You know what I'm saying? You can tell I'm a little youngin' in this picture. But it's my first book, Mind Right, Money Right, 10 Laws of Financial Freedom. And the rest is history. People latched on to the message, especially at the time, there really wasn't a lot of us, black and brown people, talking about money like that. Like when you thought about money, there were 3 people. There were Robert Kiyosaki, Susie Orman, and Dave Ramsey, right? And none of them looked like us. And so that's why I even wrote the book, Mind Right, Money Right, which if you really listen to it, that's a Jay-Z and Meth Bleak song, right? And so I've been on the hip hop money thing for a long time. But that's how I got my start. And, fast forward now, I've written 8 books. 4 of them have been bestsellers. I travel the country speaking about how to change your mindset to manage money. I live in Atlanta now. I live in a pretty big house. I'm doing pretty decent for myself. But I'm still impacting the culture as it relates to helping people change their mindset to manage their money, better and build generational wealth ultimately.
Hey, that was a good damn intro, man. And it's a lot of stuff we can pull from there, man, that I definitely want to dive into. I think one of the first things was really what you kind of said to us off camera, though. You was like, I had that street smart, so I applied it to the corporate world. Yeah. And I think that's a skill that a lot of people underestimate about being from the streets or being from the culture and the community that we are. Because growing up, man, you got to negotiate and barter a lot in the streets. Absolutely, you got to do a lot of, like, whenever you're from the hood, like, young kids, they know how to get around on the streets, like, at an early age.
For sure.
McDonald's has entered a Minecraft movie universe, and Grimace, Birdie, and Hamburglar just spawned as new collectibles as part of a Minecraft movie meal with your choice of Big Mac or 10-piece chicken McNuggets with spicy nether flame sauce. Participate in McDonald's for a limited time. A Minecraft movie only in theater.
So, like, you got to grow up real quick. So I just want to kind of talk about how that made you more effective in the corporate world.
Yeah, it's funny, right? So a couple of things is this, right? I agree with you, Jay. Like, definitely people underestimate that. And that's just because, hurt people, right? And so people who feel inferior will never tell you that you are superior, for lack of better words, right? And so when you look at people who come from corporate America or who come from good backgrounds or whatever the case may be, they got their nose up. They feel like, man, this is the right way. But they don't understand that because they don't have contrast, they're not in the powerful position, right? The person who has contrast is in the powerful position. For instance, like 50 Cent once said, right? He said, joy wouldn't feel so good if it wasn't for pain, right? And so think about that. Contrast is a very important thing, right? Because if you see one side of it, then you taste the other side, you get to choose which side is better. And then based on that, that is what instills your drive, right? And so somebody who does not have a background of coming from the hood and they only know this side of everything is all good, they don't know what it feels like to be all bad. And so they are comfortable, right? They relax. They're like, okay, so they don't have that same hunger than somebody like me who at 8 years old, I was packing bags to eat, right? Like 8 years old, I got to pack bags to eat food, right? And so now, and as I graduate and I'm learning the hustle, right? The street hustle that could get you, you could die or you could go to jail, right? Then you get into a legal perspective. You get to a legal space where you're not going to die. You're not going to get arrested. If you know what I'm saying? And all you got to do, if you have that same hunger, you could actually be super duper successful. Like that thought process is like, oh, wow, it's crazy. And so for me, I remember this story, man. I remember one time I was selling mixtapes, right? And one of my guys, he was a, hustler in the street or whatever. And he was just like, hanging out with me one day. And he was like, yo, I was like, yo, I'm going to go in this barbershop and try to get these mixtapes off. So I go in the barbershop, I asked the barber at the time, which was actually my barber, right? So I was like, yo, what's up, blah, blah, blah. Yo, can I, I'm asking him, can I put these mixtapes in here, whatever the case may be. Long story short, he didn't take any of the mixtapes. He was like, nah, I'm good, Ash. I walked outside. So my man looks at me and was like, yo, why you got these mixtapes in your hand? I said, yo, because he didn't take it. So he looked at me. He was like, yo, Masher. They used to call me Masher. He's like, yo, Masher, he said, do less asking and more. He do more telling and less asking. I was like, what? He said, yo, do more telling and less asking. So I'm like, all right, what are you talking about? So he goes in there, right? And then he comes back out. He don't got no CDs in his hand. So I'm like, yo, what you did? He said, yo, I just walked in and I gave him the CDs. And I said, yo, these are 10 CDs. I'm selling these for $10. You can market them whatever you want. But I'm going to leave these here with whatever people buy. When I come back, we're going to bust that down 50-50. So when he said that to me, I said, oh, right. And so fast forward, I get to banking. And now as a banker, that's how I was getting business, right? I wasn't asking, yo, do you want to open a checking account or do you want a mortgage? I was really doing needs-based selling where I would sit down with a person, find out what their needs are, and then based on what their needs are, I would do more telling, less asking. I would say, hey, you know, Jalen, Dave, based on what you told me, this is the product that's working for you. This is what you need. This is what it's going to take to start. Here you go. Sign a dotted line. I come to realize that that's called assumptive selling. Like if you look at a sales manual, what I just did right now was called assumptive selling.
Mm-hmm.
But my OG taught me that in the street. My OG taught me that. He taught me more telling, less asking. He didn't know it was called assumptive selling, but it worked in the street. And so what am I saying? I'm saying that I think that people in the street, if they understood the amount of power that they had in order to move things along, they would be successful. Like, and I'm happy, like somebody like Jay-Z, right? He's a billionaire. I don't think people understand, right?
Like the magnitude
of what a billionaire is, though. $1 billion means 10,000 millionaires, right? Meaning that if you were a millionaire, right, to have $100 million, right, you would need $1 million 100 times. So to be a billionaire, you need to be a millionaire, not 10,000, 1,000 times, right? So you need to become a millionaire 1,000 times to be a billionaire. And so understand that thought process, that Jay-Z became a millionaire 1,000 times in order to be a billionaire. Like, that's huge. And I don't think people understand that. And he's from 550 State Street. Like, he's from the projects, he's from Marcy Projects. And he used that same, you know, hustle and business acumen to get there. And I think that we need to start understanding that we have the advantage, you know, and use that advantage to be successful for sure.
Bro.
Man. Ooh, man. God damn. Man, she just came here and bust my head.
Yo, my fault, baby. My fault.
I said he
you know what I mean?
with the
My
fire,
fault,
man.
man. You know what I'm saying? My fault, man. I just happy to be here, man. You know, I just love to spread the knowledge, you know?
But that is a real ass conversation that we really do need to have as a people, though. Because, like, I think we talked about this with Doe. Like, man, we look at this as being black as a limitation always. Like, we never really look at it. It always comes back to our mindset. Like, if being black can be a limitation if all you look at is the bad shit that comes with it. Yeah, we understand there's systemic things in place. Yeah, we understand that our homes get devalued just because we black. But, like, if we focus on just that, we'll never actually take the benefits from our experience and turn them into something good, like you mentioned. Like, you took that and went to the bank and started closing deals.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I don't even believe in good and bad, though. I just believe in perspective, right? Like, I don't even believe that there's anything in this world that's inherently good or inherently bad. It's really the perspective in which you're looking at it. And I think that that's where mindset comes in at. I just think that for a long time, black people specifically have had the wrong perspective about things, right? Because there's actually nothing wrong with our neighborhoods being devalued. It's actually a benefit if you look at it from the right perspective. I'm going to tell you why. Because if your neighborhood is valued high, then what happens with taxes? Now your taxes go up. And so now you actually can't even afford to live there, right? Prime example, back in New York, Bed-Stuy, for instance, there are people who own beautiful brownstones, and we talk about generational wealth all the time, and we're like, yeah, let's build generational wealth. But the honest to God truth is that the lady that bought that brownstone for $40,000, right, when back in 1920 or whatever the case may be, now that same brownstone has now increased to $2 million. But even if she wanted to stay there, she now has $2 million worth of property tax. And so if she's an older woman who lives on a fixed income, she cannot afford to pay what property taxes would be on a $2 million property, right? And so what happens? She might have to sell that property to downscale and buy another property that she can afford to stay in. Why do I say that? Whether her brownstone is worth $40,000 or $2 million, it's still the same brownstone. And the care, right? If you could beautify and make a $2 million brownstone look good, then you could do the same exact thing to a $40,000 brownstone. And so what if, right? And this is just a thought. I like to give perspective, right? What if we kept our neighborhoods devalued, but we just took care of them better? They looked better, they were cleaner, and we respected our neighborhoods. right? Now we get to enjoy luxury at a price that's not luxury because taxes don't go up with it, right? And so I say all that to say is that it's everything, every single thing that you can look at from a financial perspective, even from a life perspective, is not inherently good or bad. It's all about perspective. What lens do you want to look at it? If I take a pair of shades and the shades are tinted red, then guess what? Everything I look at is going to be what color?
Red.
It's going to be red. If I take off those red glasses and I put a pair of blue glasses on, everything I look at is going to be blue. And so what I'm saying is we have the glasses of the perspective of negative or things being bad. We need to take them off and look at it from the bright side and see how beneficial it is. Because I can tell you one thing, even again, at a devalued neighborhood, when we talk about real estate, if you could get a $40,000 home, fix that $40,000 home up and make it livable, now you can pass down that $40,000 home from generation to generation. And if you look at somebody's budget, the most expensive thing that they pay for is housing. And so even at that $40,000, if you make it livable, if you make it, attractive, at a $40,000 place don't have to be worth $1 million for you to enjoy it, because now you're living cheap. Now you're not living, from paycheck to paycheck, because you don't have to worry about where you're going to live. And so it's all about perspective. And I think that as a community, systemic racism, some of these things are just that, right? But at the end of the day, we're never going to go forward by looking backwards, right? If you're driving in a car right now, right? I'm going to give you this analogy. I love this analogy, right? If you're driving in a car right now, there's a reason why the rear view mirror is smaller than the front windshield, right? Because you have to see everywhere you're going in a bigger perspective. If you're driving and you're looking back, you could crash, you could mess up where you're going because you're focused too much on the past, right? But I'll take the analogy a step further, right? Let's say, for instance, I put an address into the GPS system. As I'm driving, I'm looking every now and then, I'm looking at the rear view, but I'm driving, I'm looking forward. I put an address in the GPS system and the GPS tells me where to go. For whatever reasons, right? If I do not listen to where the GPS system is telling me to go, it's never going to take me back to where I started. Guess what the GPS system is going to do?
Reroute.
It's going to reroute from where you are, fam.
Let's go.
It's going to reroute from where you are. And so what I'm saying is, I don't care about systemic racism. I don't care what held us back in the past. Because right now, today, where I'm at, I know where I'm going. I'm just going to I'm going to plug in the things inside the GPS system, and let's go.
And we're going to rewrite anytime we get in a roadblock or whatever got to go. But we're not going back.
Exactly. My fault, y'all. Y'all got me preaching out here.
My brother, we love it. We love it.
Yeah.
Man, so look, there's one more thing I want to go back to with your banking days. I just want to go back to what it looked like whenever you first opened your first location. What did that look like, and what type of hurdles did you have to overcome? Because like you said, a lot of people don't look at it from the inside of that.
Yeah, nah, so number one, it's a scary thing and an exhilarating thing all at once, because, definitely the first time you do it, there's a lot riding on it, you know what I'm saying? Because these are brand new locations. You don't know how well it's going to do, especially at the time banking had just switched over from a service business to an actual sales business, meaning that prior to the 2000s, banking was service. Like, you had your local bank, you knew the banker was there for 20, 30 years. Like, nobody really opened new banks, you know what I'm saying? They were just there. But then, coming like the early 2000s, that's when new branches started to open up. They had the more of a sales mindset. And with that mindset, the bank was taking a chance at opening up these new branches in these new locations and not understanding how to build a customer base. And so it was exciting because this is something new that you're doing. But then at the same time, it's like, man, I don't know if this is going to be successful. And then there was a lot of innovation too, right? You had to figure it out because there wasn't a base. And so I remember my first time was a branch in Westchester County where, it was a small town. They already had, I think it was Wachovia, which now is Wells Fargo, but they had a Wachovia bank right next door that was there for a very long time. So for me, it was like, wow, how do I, if this is a small town and a majority of people bank at Wachovia. How can I get those Wachovia people over to Chase? And that was a challenge within itself. The pressure that was coming from the bosses to make sure that you do it. A lot of times we were selling before the branch even opened, right? So it was like handing out flyers like, yo, we're about to open this branch. Do you want to open an account? And people, nowadays it's natural, right? People will open up anything on their phone. Like they don't need a physical branch. But at the time in the early 2000s, that wasn't the case, right? Like you had to have, they had to see the bank. They weren't going to give you their information on the street. And so it was a learning curve. Eventually, I figured out that the best way to do it was to not reach out to people in the street. It was more going to jobs, right? To find out what jobs were in my neighborhood because they were familiar with the Chase brand. Let me take advantage of the brand that they know already and say, hey, let me open up an account for you, get direct deposit into your account. You could use any Chase until we open our bank. And I figured that out. And that actually was my winning method. That's what actually helped me, become successful. And because I used that method, when I opened my first door and got successful, they took me out. They put me in another place that was struggling. I did that. Then I, kept doing that. But I think that too, it's always hindsight though, right? As it's happening, it's nerve-wracking. I'm like, yo, am I going to be able to do this? I'm nervous and all that stuff. But in hindsight, when I now look and be like, yo, like I did that. Like, yo, we put money into this and we were able to become successful. We were able to meet our goals and objectives. It was sort of like an exhilarating thing. And so that honestly though, and that's why I will always have love for Chase because that's why I've been successful as an author, right? Same exact thing as an author is like, yo, I'm writing a book. I have this idea. I don't know if people are going to, attach to this idea or not. How am I going to test the waters, right? I'm going to test the waters out to see if anybody even wants this idea. And so I might write a blog. I might tease it with a post. I might do things to kind of like, to check the temperature of my customer. But then as my customer says, yes, they want it, before I even finish the book, I might do a pre-sale. So that way people could be out and, could be buying it and showing me that it works. And then once it's there, I start doing my sales, doing my marketing. And then in hindsight, I look back and be like, damn, this worked. Or it's not always successful, right? Because, even I've had books that I've written that show nothing. And now I learned from those. I'm like, oh, you know what? That wasn't a good idea. Okay, don't do that anymore. And so you equally, and that's why I talk about the lens, right? Somebody might write a book and be like, yo, this joint didn't sell nothing, and they stop writing books. Or you could look at it from, all right, what can I learn from this, right? I started a business, it failed. I wrote a book, it failed. I started a podcast, it failed. What can I learn to now do it better until I have success? And that's the thing that I learned is that I don't put a timeline on my success. I know for a fact, like there is no doubt in my mind that anything I do will be successful. I just don't know when. And I'm okay with that, right? Not knowing when is the biggest thing that you have to accept if you want success. If you're putting a timeline on it, if you're like, yo, this is going to be successful at this particular time, when that time comes and it's not successful, most people are going to retreat. Most people are going to do something else. And all of that work that they put in was for nothing. I'm 10 years in writing books, and now I make a living off of books. And I'm happy that I didn't listen to the people who told me I should stop writing after my first one flopped, after my second one flopped. It literally took me 5 books to figure out the formula, and then now I'm coasting. And so, to your question and your point, opening up that bank was something I was nervous about. I didn't know if I was going to be successful, but, put your mind to it. And I just kept, making sure that I was going to try different things. And eventually I was successful with it. And that's the formula that you can use for anything.
And that's something that we're really big on, like just not giving up, like always just trying something. Even with us growing like our account, even with us expanding right now, like we're just trying stuff. And like you said, you might not get it your first time, you might not get it your second time. But if you just keep on going, keep on tweaking it and say, man, hold on, this I overshot. Now I'm a little bit too low. You just keep on testing the formula.
You got to keep testing the waters because it's like one major thing that like you said, you can't put a timeline on success. That's the biggest thing. Like, because especially like with today's day and age, we always talk like, it's just hitting 2020. We all talk these goals set and making these things happen. And a lot of people
a lot of the times we'll make these goals and sometimes we'll fall short. Sometimes we achieve them, sometimes we fall short. We can't let that falling short stop us from continuing forward. Because, man, like you said, the great Nip said, one of my favorite quotes from him, man, the big thing that distinguished him was that he didn't quit.
Absolutely.
Just persistence, like continuing to do the work.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a major key though, right? Like that's a major key to do the work. And that's why I say to everybody that whatever you're doing, just make sure you love doing it, right? Like don't do it because you're looking for an outcome. Do it because you actually enjoy doing it. Because what happens too is that for me, I enjoyed, right? Like I said, before I transitioned from banker to entrepreneur, I enjoyed going to the jails and kicking game, right? I enjoyed going to the inner cities and kicking game. I enjoyed going to the churches and kicking game. And so because I enjoyed that so much, I just made a career out of doing what I love to do. And, my success, at some points, I might break a door down and do something that I never thought I would do. But then even if I'm at this high level and then I get taken back down, I'm not like, oh my God, I got to get back to this high level, because at my low level, I'm still doing what I love. At my mid level, I'm still doing what I love. At my high level, I'm still doing what I love. Meaning that if
the NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff. Even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
21 plus and present in Virginia. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
One person read my book and they hit me and like, yo, Ash Cash, that book was dope. It helped me. I love that. If 100 people hit me and say that, I love that. If 100,000 people hit me and say that, I love that. But I'm not focused on the amount of people. My goal isn't to say, because like I want millions of people to read my book, but I'm okay at 100,000. I'm okay that 100,000 people read my book. I'm fine with that, because at the end of the day, if 100,000 people read it, then it's just a matter of time that 1 million people will read it. And the great thing about, intellectual property and doing things that last forever is that there is no timeline. Even when God decides to take me out of this physical realm, my books will still exist and people will still have access to them. I say this all the time. Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich in 1929. I read that book every year.
Me too.
You know what I'm saying? And so he's not here anymore, but his work has still impacted it. And so think about that. As you're thinking about, success, don't think about, yo, this is a great idea for right now. Let me just do it. No, think about, what do you love? How can you do something that could stand the test of time? And if what you're doing could stand the test of time, do it with love, the success is going to come.
That's a word.
It is a word. And with that, when you're talking about works that last and your books and all that, I kind of want to start pivoting toward looking at what that was like whenever you first started getting into entrepreneurship and started making your first books.
Yeah, so same thing, right? It was a trial and error. And so I'll tell you a funny story, because I don't want anybody to think that my road was straight. Like, this is how it went. You know what I'm saying? I remember in 2009, I was 29 years old, and I was just about to turn 30. And so, I had wrote the first book, and it was doing pretty well. I actually was on Hot 97. Black Enterprise did some stuff on me. And so at that time, I was full of myself, I'll be honest. And so I actually threw myself a retirement party. And so if you follow me on Facebook, go to my Facebook page. Under albums, you're going to see that in 2009, I was 29 years old. I was about to turn 30. And for my 30th birthday, I threw myself a retirement party at the 40/40 Club to retire from banking into entrepreneurship, right? At the time, I didn't really have any like legit entrepreneurs in my life. And so I didn't know what it took to be successful as an entrepreneur. And so I fell flat on my face. I was making money. It wasn't that I wasn't making money, but I was living a six-figure lifestyle. And so because I was living a six-figure lifestyle as a banker, I wasn't making six figures my first go-round. And so I literally almost lost everything. So I was a homeowner very early. So I bought my first home when I was 25 years old. My daughter was 2 years old at the time. I was married. And so I'm living this life, but now I can't afford anything. Now I can't, be the man that I thought I was supposed to be. And I almost went into foreclosure. My car almost got repossessed. In fact, that retirement party, I had to unretire and go back into banking, right? I had to go back and become a banker, and redo things over and over, redo things over again. But for me, it was a learning lesson, right? And so to your question, that was the biggest thing I learned. I learned that as an entrepreneur, I was too heavily invested in my physical labor, right? I was dependent on working. The only way I made money was I had to physically work for money in order to survive. And so at that point, right, that breaking point that some people might have looked at like, oh my God, you suck as an entrepreneur, so get a job and just stay at your 9 to 5. But instead, I said, nah, you know what? What can I learn from this situation? And what I learned was that I need to change my relationship with money. Instead of working hard for money, money needs to work hard for me. And so the second time around, instead of going back into the bank, making good money and just using that money to live, I said, how can I take that money and invest? And so my wife and I, we bought an income producing property. We had, a tenant, and a tenant paid our mortgage. And that was the beginning of me understanding the importance of passive income that you don't necessarily have to work for. And that was sort of like the beginning of that. And that is what allowed me to now, my second time around, say, you know what? I'm going to quit banking. But instead of quitting banking cold turkey, I'm going to get a job, so for making 6 figures, now that I have a little bit of money coming in passively, I'm going to get a job making $50,000. I'm going to be a counselor or something like that. Did that, and then started continuing to build my side hustle until now I can leave my side hustle 100% and become a full-time entrepreneur. And so in the beginning, it was tough. In the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing, but eventually just kind of learning from my mistakes, learning how I could do it differently, it got me to this space to now, I'm able to make money passively, like without even having to do anything. I know that there's a certain amount of money I make. I still work for money, but actually, let me reframe that. I still work, but I don't work for money, right? Mm-hmm. I work doing what I love to do. And as a result of that, the money comes. But at the same time, I still, on one side of the spectrum, I still have money that just comes passively. On the other side of the spectrum, I have money that comes in from being active. And that money that comes from being active, I can now take that and then reinvest it somewhere else in order to make it passive income as well.
Ooh, some bars, man. My boy said he really came here to, man.
But that's the power of what that lesson was right there. That lesson of falling flat on your face that first time.
Real,
you came
man.
back that second time, like, oh, I know what I did wrong that first time. Exactly. This time I'm coming to it all.
Exactly. That's a fact. So now, right, you touch that oven and you get burnt, but don't mean that you don't still want what's on that pot.
Exactly.
So now you get a glove this time. You know what I'm saying? Now you get a glove this time. Now you make sure you cool it off, right? You don't get burnt on a pot and you like, I'm good. Nah, you like, nah, I still want that, but let me figure out how I get it without getting burnt this time. You know what I mean?
Most def.
So Ash, next thing I want to go into, man. So like you said, you wrote these books. You wrote 5 books before you hit your first book. But what was like the process like of writing your first book? Because I know a lot of people hit us up and they ask us, man, like, I want to write a book, but I don't know where to get started.
Yeah. So I would say this, right? The first book that I wrote, I literally wrote the book. I was working at the bank at the time. I would literally drive my car to the parking lot an hour earlier, and I would sit in the parking lot. That's where we had Blackberries. And so I would literally like type on my Blackberry and write this book. Then, when it's time for me to leave, I would do the same thing. So maybe about 2 to 3 hours per day, I was writing. Took me about 8 months to write my first book. Now, fast forward, I could actually write a book in a week if that's all I'm doing. Like if all I do is dedicate myself to that book, I could write a book in a week. If I'm doing other things, I could write a book within 1 to 2 months, start to finish. And so I would tell anybody out there who is looking to write a book to start by dictating your book, right? Technology is your friend. And so what I mean by dictating is I would first sit down and think about what is it that I want to write about? What message do I want people to get from this book? And then based on that message, I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to say, what are the steps that it's going to take for me to get people to get to this message? And so I'm going to write the steps down. I'm going to say step 1 is going to do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, step 4, step 5, whatever steps it's going to take. And then literally, once I outline the book and I have the steps, I literally take my iPhone and I start to voice record. I pretend as if I'm doing a workshop and I'm teaching people about this concept. The beauty of dictating opposed to actually writing it down is that if you have to write something down, that means it comes from your head. Then your head has to process it through your arms, and your arms has to actually physically write it down, which breaks down the thought process and everything like that. And then so you might not have the same thing that you thought about on that paper. But as you think it and it comes out the mouth, it's like literally less than a second that happens, right? In fact, I was doing a workshop the other day, and in the workshop, I asked a young lady to write down and tell me about her business. I said, write down, as I give you 1 minute to write down about your business in 1 minute. She could not do it. She probably had like 5 or 6 like words on the paper telling me about her business. So now I said, all right, now tell me about your business. And she was able to tell me about her business in 13 seconds, right? And so imagine that, because she thinks about it, she says it. That's it. It's like less than a second. And so I tell anybody who's writing a book, make sure that you outline it first, know what you're talking about, and literally just dictate the book. Once you dictate the book, you then could take the voice that you recorded, and now find somebody to transcribe it. You have Fiverr.com, you have Upwork.com. You literally just take that file, you send it to somebody, they're gonna take that, your voice, and transcribe it, and then you go through the editing process. You do that, you'll have a book in no time, and you'll have your thoughts out there, your creativeness out there, and then now you've created another source of income. You've now created a source of passive income by just putting in 10 to 30 hours of talking.
With that, we know that you push ownership big on that.
Yeah.
So how do they go about, saying, man, this is my book, I own it. Amazon don't own this publishing house doesn't own this. What does that step kind of look like?
Yeah, so you just literally have to create your own publishing company, And the great thing about it now is that you could literally own all that stuff without paying an arm and a leg. And so, all 8 books that I've written are all under my publishing company, One Brick Publishing. I own the rights to all my books. I, own the copyright. And so it's literally, after the book is done, is literally filling out a form, copyright form, and sending that out to get copywritten. I think it's like $110 to get your book copywritten. Going and buying your own ISBN number. And so your ISBN number is actually like the number that identifies your book. And so if you go to myidentifiers.com, they're the only distributor of ISBN numbers in the United States. You buy your ISBN number under your company's name, you copyright it, and then now you own it, And the great thing about ownership in books is that now we live in a space where you have direct access to the consumer. And so you don't necessarily need a publishing house to own your book in order for you to make money. You can actually own it and still make money from it if you have the right marketing plan and the right, marketing down pat.
So with owning your book like that, would you be able to kind of like get into bookstores, maybe like Barnes and Noble or like something like that? And is that kind of a little bit more difficult, or would you suggest, hey, just straight online and just get it straight like that?
Yeah, so I believe that and is better than or. And so I don't ever choose. I want all of it, right? Okay. And so doing your book that way, yes, you can still sell it online. Yes, you can go to Amazon and Barnes and Nobles online. Yes, you could sell it at the, out your trunk if you want to. You could go to speaking engagements and sell it. But then, yes, you can still get your books in bookstores. In fact, I make minimum 4 figures a month off of books, right? And so when I say 4 figures is $1,000, right? But in my particular case, on average, I make between $2,500 to $2,800 every month off of books. The one thing that helped that was the fact that my books are in bookstores. Because at first, I was only doing online, right? And so when I was only doing online, I was seeing an average of maybe $300, $400 a month. But when I started to tackle independent bookstores, when I started tackling like the libraries and things of that nature, that's what allowed me to now sell, right? There's 1,000, right? There's thousands of independent bookstores. And so if all of these independent bookstores are ordering books from you, then that's going to exponentially increase the amount of money you make each month. And so I would say So the only caveat to that is that, you know, when you are publishing your book yourself, that's why I say go to myidentifiers.com and buy your own ISBN number, because you don't want your ISBN number to show that it's an Amazon book or it's a, you know, like it's a Nook book or a Kindle book. You want it to show that it's your, you know, your publishing company, because independent bookstores are going to be more likely to put you in their bookstore if they don't think that you're a self-published author. So you don't want to look like you're a self-published author. You want to look like you're signed to a traditional publishing company. That's the reason why my publishing company is called One Brick Publishing. I could have easily called it Ash Cash Books. I could have called it Mind Right Money Books. But at the end of the day, Mind Right Money Management is the name of my company. People can associate that publishing company with me. Ash Cash is my name. People could associate it with me. For me, One Brick Publishing is not associated with me, so people might think that it is a total separate entity, and that's why they might be willing to put my books in the bookstore. And so I would say make sure that you play the game a little bit in order to do that. You know what I mean?
Oh, hey, that's a big tip too, though, because sometimes a lot of people be like, man, I'm not playing the game, I'm selling out or whatever, but they don't understand that, like you said, there's still a system. There's still some things that you got to play by the rules, but there's also loopholes to get around the rules, like you just gave them. Name it after something else where you still own it, but it don't track back so as looking like it's associated with you.
For sure, for sure. And that's the other thing too, right? That's why I said to you earlier, and is better than or, because I know people that do not sell on Amazon. They only sell on their website or whatever the case may be, and they're killing it. Like, they're killing it. They're doing well. But for me, that's because they're only, like, in my opinion, they're only focusing on book sales, right? And so they're saying, nah, I'm not going to give Amazon 40%, right? I'm not giving them 40%. Like, I want to keep the lion's share. But what I realized is that being on Amazon is why I've done national television, right? Being on Amazon is why I've done national radio. Being on Amazon is why I've done major speeches with over thousands of people in the audience, because when you Google me, like, I'm legit. You know what I'm saying? When you Google me, you don't only see my website. Like, Google think I'm important. Like, if you Google me, I got a whole Google thing on the side that I don't even have no control over, that Google created. Google, you know, did all the crawling and took all my pictures and took the covers of my book, because I'm an author, right? Because I'm on the mainstream websites. That would have never happened had I not been on these major platforms. If I only sold my books on iamashcash.com, Google wouldn't think I was important, because people are only finding me one place, which is on my website. But now people can find me everywhere. You can find me on my website. You can find me on Amazon. You can find me on Google Books. You can find me on Barnes & Nobles. You can find me on Books A Million. So as you're able to spread yourself and be available everywhere, that's how you start to be able to accumulate and make money. I have audiobooks, right? I'm not going to, like, I remember one time somebody hit me on a DM, was like, yo, I drive Uber. I want to read your Jay-Z book, but I drive an Uber. I said, all right, peace. Thank you for telling me. I went and I recorded the audiobook, because there's people who don't read books. You know what I mean? It's people that listen to books that are going to need the information that I give. So I say and is better than or. Make sure that you're saturating the market wherever people buy, wherever people listen, wherever people consume, just so that you're covering all bases.
Most def, bro. So with that, we're going to ask this before we get to our last section. So since you come from the banking sector and you kind of got a chance to look at, the way people spend and everything, what would that one thing you would tell someone who's trying to build wealth? This is what you need to do in order for you to start taking those first steps to actually getting out of just living in the rat race.
Yeah. So if I could give you 4 things.
Oh, that's right? Cool.
Yeah. If I could give you 4, because I think that it is no secret formula. It's a science, right? Like, literally, it's a science. Like, it literally, if you take the color red and you mix it with the color yellow, it's going to be green. There's nothing you know what I mean? Like that's the science. It's exact science. So number 1 is that you have to know what it is that you want. You have to have a target. A lot of people are blanket about finance. They're like, yo, I want to be financially free. But what does financial freedom mean? What does it mean? Because what David thinks financial freedom is what David thinks financial freedom is. What Ash Cash thinks what financial freedom is what Ash Cash thinks financial freedom is. What Jalen thinks financial freedom is, that's what he thinks financial freedom is. Like, there is no universal financial freedom.
Yeah.
And so you have to define it. So I say, number one, you have to define it. Create a target for yourself. What is this target that you want to reach? Number one.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Number two, you have to believe that you could reach that target, right? So if financial freedom means that you want to be a millionaire, then you have to believe that you could be a millionaire. And believing that you could be a millionaire doesn't mean just like wishing it. It also means that you know what steps that you want to take in order to be a millionaire. You know what it's going to feel like to be a millionaire. You know how you're being, right? Like, how does a millionaire talk? How does a millionaire walk? How does a millionaire, like all of that stuff, you got to start being that immediately, right? So number one, you have to create a target. Number two, you have to believe in that target. Number three, you have to visualize that target. You have to kind of see it in your mind's eye. Before it becomes real, you have to see it in your mind's eye. And then lastly, you have to execute. That is the biggest part. You have to execute on that vision, right? And so now you know your target. Now you believe you can reach that target. Now you see yourself. You can imagine yourself, having that target and creating that target. Now you have to execute like it's already done. You do those four things, there is not a thing on this earth that you cannot accomplish. Not one single thing on this earth that you can't accomplish. The reason why people don't achieve their dreams is because they haven't fully defined it. And if they defined it, they don't believe that they could get it. And if they believe they could get it, they haven't visioned themselves doing it. And if they could vision themselves doing it, they haven't executed and paid the price for what it takes to get it. And so I think if you do those four things, you will get out the rat race. You will love your life. You will do everything that is in your power to live the best life that you want to live.
There you have it.
Appreciate it, my brother. Appreciate it.
That 4 powerful steps. So look, for sure.
Hey, listen to him. Like he said, apply the science to it, put in the work, and y'all go get it out the mud.
For sure.
And we're going to be here while y'all trying to get it out the mud too, though, supplying the resources and all the tools and the knowledge that you need to help you out on your journey.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, and with that, we're going to pivot to the last segment of the show. So, Ash, I just want to ask you, what's something that you've seen on your timeline recently that you thought was important or impactful that you just want to speak on?
Yeah, man. So, I told you this offline that, I have, my timeline is righteous and ratchet, at the same time, And so a lot of times when I'm looking at my Instagram, I make sure that I'm purposefully putting out things that are, positive in nature, that is not, that is helping to uplift people. But also, I look at things that are impactful for me. And so one of the things that, I liked, and it's actually a quote. I watch quotes a lot. And so something that impacted me and made me feel good was a quote that said, why start a second job when you could start your first business, right? And that impacted me in such a way because I hear people all the time talk about living paycheck to paycheck, and their solution to stop living paycheck to paycheck is to tie up their time doing something else, And so you have to understand that you have a limited amount of time. And so if you're going to wrap up your time working one job, now you're going to wrap up the rest of your time working a second job. You could literally just stay in that one job, create, start your first business that can actually free up time, because as you create passively, it allows you to now buy some of your time back. And so that's one thing that was on my timeline that really impacted me, because I think that everybody, no matter where you are in your journey, I know, and there's some people are at different places in their journey. No matter where you are in your journey, make sure that you are creating passive income. that you have ownership in something and that you're creating multiple streams of income, because one stream of income is economic suicide. Like, you're committing economic suicide if you only have one stream of income. Even if you have one business, you should be trying to figure out how can you create, like the great Nipsey Hussle talks about ecosystems, right? How do you create an ecosystem around the one business that you have, right? Me as an author, or I'm not even an author, right? I'm a financial educator. And so as a financial educator, what are the other ways I could create other sources of income around me being a financial educator? Oh, I'm gonna write books. I'm gonna make money there. Oh, I'm gonna be a public speaker. I'm gonna write money there. Oh, I'm gonna be a brand ambassador and I'm gonna make money there. Oh, I'm going to do online courses and I'm gonna make money there. Oh, I'm gonna consult and help people. I'm gonna make money there. And so these are all making money off of this one thing, this financial educator, this guy that has this information about money, about entrepreneurship, and how can I create an ecosystem around that one thing. And I think everybody needs to be able to do that.
Most def. Bars. Hey, so this was a great podcast, bro. We definitely thank you for coming on, man.
Oh, man.
Like we said, we're definitely looking forward to this. And we definitely going to have to get you back on in the future, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, anytime, man. Like I said, man, I appreciate what y'all doing. Keep doing it. Y'all killing the game. I think that a lot of times in the past, people would look at other people in their lane and be like, yo, it's competition. But nah, we need to do this together. And so that's why I appreciate y'all reaching out to me. Anything I could do to support y'all, let me know, because we're in this together. Like when you go to the supermarket, there's not just one brand of orange juice. There's different brands of orange juice. There's different brands of bread. There's different books out there. You know what I'm saying? So like there is no lack. There's enough for us all. And what y'all doing is, like we're going to talk about, the Black Wealth Renaissance 20 years from now. Like this is like all of us, we're literally ushering, like we're part of history. Like I don't even think people understand that. Like we are part of history. Like back in the day when people would talk about, the spending power, Black people wasting their money, all that stuff, like we are the solution to that. And we're providing the tools, the resources. So 20 years from now, when the wealth gap is short and we're passing down wealth from generation to generation, they're going to remember the Black Wealth Renaissance. They're going to remember Ash Cash. Yeah. They're going to remember, you know what I'm saying? They're going to remember everybody who's out here doing a thing. They're going to remember us all. We are making history. So let's keep doing it. Let's keep our foot on the next. Let's make sure that we change this narrative, because we're not looking back. What's done is done. All we're doing, we're looking forward. We're letting that GPS system guide us to where we need to go. And we're going to create multiple millionaires. We're going to flood that, forget the Forbes list. We're going to create our own list.
We already own it. We already own it.
We're going to create our own list, and we're going to be top of the top of all of that.
Yeah. Motherfucker, right. God, you know what I mean?
And we are coming back to Atlanta this year, so we definitely gonna get with you, man. We're gonna host the meetup in Atlanta this year.
Oh, I'm there for sure. For sure.
Most def.
So,
we're gonna get into some housekeeping before we wrap this up.
Before that, Jalen, before that, my brother, Ash, could you please tell the people where they can find you and where you can where you plug in anything that you got going on, man?
Nah, for sure, man. So definitely check out my website, IamAshCash.com. Also, I know I gave a lot of game away as it relates to writing books. If you're interested in writing any books, I have a course that gives you all the game, plus how to market it, how to, become a bestseller, how to make money off of it. If you go to mindwrite.com, you could get the course there. But then also, man, just follow me follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. My handle is IamAshCash. And all my information is there. You hit the link in the bio, you'll see everything that I have to offer. And like I said, man, I'm also Googleable. So you could Google Ash Cash and all of my stuff will pop up as well.
Most def, I love it.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, now we're going to quickly get into some housekeeping notes. Once again, always want to thank everybody for tuning in and week out to the podcast. You guys are special. We love y'all. Y'all continue to rate and review the podcast.
Thank you.
And just continue to spread the message of this knowledge, this renaissance, share the history in the making that's going on. Jalen.
Also, y'all check out our budgeting spreadsheet that has dropped. The budgeting spreadsheet is going to help you keep track of your income and your expenses. It's going to help you keep track of where your money is going. And we're just trying to really just keep on building that generational wealth like we've been talking about, but we can't do it unless we know where our money is going, where our money is coming from, and create multiple streams of income. Also, y'all be on the lookout for our ebook, Manage Your Money Like the 1%. It will be dropping soon.
Yeah. So, with that said, there'll be Black Wealth Renaissance signing out. Peace.
Hey, I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone. Gotta get it on the daily. All I want is dubs. You know what I'm on. I've been chasing after paper. All I know is run money marathons. I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone. Gotta get it on the daily. All I want is dubs. You know what I'm on. I've been chasing after paper. All I know is run money marathons.
McDonald's has entered a Minecraft movie universe, and Grimace, Birdie, and Hamburglar just spawned as new collectibles in the overworld. Now for a limited time, you can get one of 6 McDonald's collectibles when you order a Minecraft movie meal. With your choice of Big Mac or 10-piece chicken McNuggets with spicy nether flame sauce. Available now in a biome near you. Oh, and at your local McDonald's. At participating McDonald's for a limited time. A Minecraft movie only in theaters.